Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Moving to Texas team down here in Houston, Texas, here with another episode of the Real Advice Podcast. I'm excited. We're taking things in a little bit different direction today. And I feel like my guest today needs no introduction. If you've been in the real estate space, then chances are you've seen him at an event, you've worked with him as an advisor in the real estate industry, and now he's doing some pretty cool stuff out on his own. So, join me in welcoming Conor Murnane. What is going on, man? How are you?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really looking forward to this convo. Just it's been a pleasure being a friend from across the country, and I know you and I both just getting started. So happy to be here.
I love it. I love it. So for those that may not know you, and as I said, I feel like you've been in the industry for a
Yeah,
very long time now. With Zillow for a while, right, as an advisor to teams and brokerages and stuff like that. So was that your first real estate gig, or how'd you get into real estate?
yeah, and this is definitely an opportunity for us to kind of hit on some of the things maybe I've never told or shared. So let's dig in. But it actually was 2009. So if anyone's been in the real estate space, that was a fun year to like get into real estate and tech. I was in San
Yeah.
Francisco at a
Okay.
couple of real estate startups and was an early employee at a company called Trulia before going public and getting acquired by Zillow. So like you said, I'd for years, over a decade, started my career in what I was just telling you, the belly of the beast at Zillow. And there's a lot of learnings in my own personal journey there, but kind of fast forwarding a little bit to today, that I was fortunate to meet and learn from and work with so many, badass top producing agents and teams from all over the country, that I decided to start clicking record, and making videos and sort of documenting that journey just a few years ago, which
Yeah.
led to a side hustle turned full-time business.
Well, and so that was always something that I actually use you as an example of, ways in which
Cool.
you can do video, right? And so it's funny now, kind of full circle, where that's taken you, right? Your
Yeah.
video journey. But that was
Yeah.
the one thing that I always told people is I was like, hey, this guy has like this podcast style video, right, where he goes
Yeah.
live with people from across the country on a regular basis and then cuts that up into additional content. So not
Mm-hmm.
only are you getting the
Mm-hmm.
juice from going live, you're also then cutting it up and you have additional 2, 3, 4, 5 more videos.
Yep.
And, it's
Yep.
just something that's like, you don't need high production quality, right? It's like headphones in on your phone, getting
Totally.
it done, right?
It
Um,
it
so
was it
yeah,
was super raw. And I just want to add one more thing to that I feel like is actually the most underrated but biggest benefit in that whole journey of mine. Because I did start casually kind of interviewing people as a sort of a hack for me to get comfortable and get going with video. And then I doubled down on it and interviewed like 100 people over the course of a year. And
yeah,
and like the biggest takeaway or the biggest value actually from it wasn't even necessarily the video or the audience or the followers, et cetera. It was the one-to-one relationships. So even just sitting down and you and I having a chat like this for 30-40 minutes or whatever it is, like it's a real human moment where you go deep and build that relationship. So even if you get 0 views, 0 followers, it was like 100 relationships that got much
cementing
deeper and
them. Yeah,
closer, which have again opened up doors today that weren't always necessarily the plan or the
yeah.
vision that I saw clearly, but a huge benefit.
Well, and so, kind of relating that to agents that are listening to this now, like that's something that you could do with business owners in your community, right? That's stuff that you could do with entrepreneurs in your community to cement those relationships, down the road.
Yeah, I'll
So
say real quick as an introvert, and we can maybe go unpack that a little bit more. But like, I'm right after this podcast, I'm going to a local event. Like some of our mutual friends from like Mel and Neil are there, and the introvert side of me is like, I don't really need to or want to go to the event. Like I'm gonna work on some of my stuff on the laptop and like, but I know like a lot of us I think forget, with this stuff. Social media is social. We're here to make these
yeah.
videos, yes, but then build relationships and whatever we're trying to do, whether it's personal development or meaningful business stuff, like we're trying to still build relationships, at the end of the day.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, for sure. I would agree with you some days. I actually just came from a networking event to then do this. So I feel you
Yeah,
there. I
you're
feel you
you're
there.
probably running on E, and who knows how many hours of sleep you got as mama running the biz. But it's I also one thing I did want to say with the introvert comment, and like I'm curious
Yeah.
actually if you can relate it all to this. for me, as a like my early stages of my career started in sales. So like I always consider myself like a salesperson, starting to learn marketing and building and so on. Like did retail when I was like a young teenager. So like sales was like always kind of what I was doing. And as an introvert, this is sort of like a dream. You can instead of having to knock on 1,000 doors or shake 1,000 actual physical hands in real life,
Yeah.
you can record one video in your room, and however difficult that might be, it can now lead to thousands of conversations, just with that one effort. So an introvert's dream, if anyone's listening.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's such a journey too, though, right? And I think a lot of people think that, oh, I just need to shoot one video, right? And like
Yes, sure.
Connor just said he did 100 videos.
Yeah.
But I know that
And that
has.
was 100. That was 100 interviews, and then I made like
Oh
three
yeah,
videos per
per
interview. So it's like just to add to your point, because I think the volume is so important. Like you got to sometimes 100x sometimes what people's expectations are.
man, 100x. I always thought it was 10x, but you just 10x
No,
the 10x.
I'm stealing this one from Hormozy though, because
Okay.
I've been obsessed with his stuff lately, and he recently had said, like, in a lot of times with people's volume, they'll, whether it's sales calls or
Yeah.
videos to post, they will sort of be in this like, oh, like I made 2 videos, but maybe I need to make more like 20. And oftentimes the reality is it is more like 100x in reality. Like
Yeah.
it's not like making 15 sales calls today. Like you probably got to make 100, to way more than that, just this week.
Well, and so I definitely want to dig in a ton to video and kind of what you're doing now and the journey that you've taken to kind of get there. But first, I kind of want to like take a step back. And so when you were advising for Zillow and you
Hmm.
were working
Hmm.
with teams and things like that, what advice would you give to agents that are just starting out now? So what advice would you give to agents that are just starting out as far as breaking down like making those calls, like, because I think it's important to make calls, I think it's important to do video, like there's so many different things that you should be doing,
Yeah.
and we're going to dig into
And
video, so I kind of want to start on the sales side first, like
no, I think
what
this is
advice would you
good.
give?
Cool. I love these topics. And I want to create some context for people, because sometimes like this advisor role at Zillow can very much feel like I was this like guy in an ivory tower, like telling people how to sell homes, when I want to be clear, I've literally never sold a home, done my license. So what I looked at it more was, these were already high operators that, in our role with Zillow, because of what it was, we were flooding them with, buyer leads. And ideally, because they were the number one team in Houston or the number one team in San Diego, we wanted to scale with them. So my sort of background and focus was a lot on like operational execution and scaling
Yeah.
that, not so much the details of how to be a great realtor and all that. Like so I want to be real clear on some of these things. But what I observed when a lot of these top teams would recruit new agents, and they would have agents come in and either flop or succeed. I mean, I think the first thing is just that proximity. Like sometimes you see new agents come in and sort of go solo, or try and kind of gradually figure it out. Or they'll be in kind of a broader group, but really not close to like a team. So I think if you're a
Hmm.
new agent, I almost think you have to look at like getting as close to team member, like almost intern level. That's the way, if I were getting my license tomorrow, that's the way I would look at it. Is not necessarily optimizing for the commission percentage, which I think a lot of agents are understandably trying to do, but more like, how can I get back to this volume game? How can I get 100 transactions under my belt as fast as possible, even if I make, and I'll give very personal examples about how I've done this in my own life financially, so people don't think I'm just telling them, to do this without me doing it. But basically, how to make, who cares about how much you make, but how do you get 100 transactions first, and then the learnings, and then that's your upfront foundation and your investment that you can build on. Then maybe you can build your own team. Then you can maybe go do your own thing, or expand in your own way. But I think it's the learnings up front. I see, especially these last few years, you've probably seen it way more than me, so many people got their license and are now dropping or not renewing,
Yeah.
because they kind of just got their license and were like grabbing a deal here and there. They weren't like obsessed with trying to figure out what someone like you is doing, on a day-to-day basis. But I don't know if that's even, I want to go back to kind of your core question, if I heard it right. Like I don't know if that's making the calls as much. I don't know if it's making the little things as much as like getting side by side with you and almost just like doing the work for you, even at almost low to minimum commission. And for a lot of these teams, that means like working the Zillow leads, the realtor.com leads, their open door leads, these other sources, working open houses, like dropping farmers in the area, like learning the business, boots
Yeah.
on the ground is kind of what I'm saying.
Well, and so I think, yeah, it's like, what is everyone builds their business in different ways, right? Some teams buy leads, some teams farm, some teams, all the things you
Right.
said. Some teams have you
Right.
do open houses, whatever it may be. But getting into the right room, into the proximity with the right people to, gain those
Mm-hmm.
skills to sell, if it's 100 homes, but as many homes as
Yeah.
possible, right? To
Yeah.
then where you feel comfortable, doing that on your own. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Especially now. It's interesting when I meet agents and I'm like, oh, awesome. How long have you been in real estate? And they say like a year or 2 years, or, they
Yeah.
got in 2020. I'm like, oh, like,
Yeah.
it'll
It's
be
like,
interesting,
have you sold a home yet? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to me it's almost, yeah, the I'm to the way bigger signals. How many homes have you, like how many transactions have you facilitated in real estate is way bigger indicator of one's experience, than like the years in the business. I mean, there's all those cliche memes, right, with like, there are agents who stand on the fact that they've been in the industry for 35 years, but they're not, that doesn't mean they're, innovative. It doesn't mean that they're progressing and all those things. So it's the experience.
Almost any time when an agent tells me, I've been doing this for 30 years, the transaction doesn't go smoothly.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I can
Like
imagine.
that's the moment in which I know it's going downhill, when you tell me
Yeah,
you've been doing this for 30 years. But
yeah.
no, I mean, I think proximity is everything. We were together in San Diego. Was that
Mhm.
2020 or was that 2021?
21.
Was it 2021?
I think actually, I'm not even
Yeah, because
positive.
I think
I don't think it was like the hardcore year of 2020.
because no, we were in
I
California,
think it
so
was,
there's no way it was 2020. There was
yeah,
no way.
yeah, yeah,
So anyways, like, I mean,
yeah,
but like a room like that to me was like the right room, right? And then, later that
totally.
same year or the next year we were in no, later that same year we were in Vegas together, and
Yeah, yeah,
doing these different things, I think, is getting in the right room. And so that could be going to a conference, it could be joining a team, it could be joining a
yeah.
brokerage, whatever that looks like, just finding the right people to help bring you up, I think is huge.
Completely. Completely. That's been for me personally, just trying to find those like almost mentors that don't even know that they're mentoring you from afar,
Yeah.
but you just kind of try and emulate. And then if you can, certainly paying to be, or, doing work to be, this is some of the things I was alluding to and some of the examples that what can be a third door as a way of getting the experience or getting into the room, without, necessarily having to sacrifice everything.
Well, and so that was actually gonna be my next question. So let's get a little bit more tactical on that, right? So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone that's like looking to find a mentor, right? Because how many times have you been messaged? It's like, hey man, can I pick your brain? And you're like,
Yeah. Oh
sure,
God.
would love to help, but like
Yeah.
how can I help you? Right. Because it's like
Yeah.
sometimes people want to ask you a question and it's like you're not the right person to answer it, or you know someone that would be way better, So
Right.
what advice would you give for
I'm
someone
big on
looking to find a
this, and
mentor?
I'm big on this. I'm going to start really in the detail there just because of what you brought up, but then I'll get into some of the strategies. So like, the can I asking someone, can I ask you something is already a mistake. Like it's basically wasted their time and your time. Like you can either ask that question right off the bat, or like just not. But like, I think that's one thing. Pick your brain, asking you that. It's just too vague. Like you said, now the other person on the other end is left to translate what's in this or not. And that's almost one of the worst ways to start. But zooming out more on like, how do you work, then get close to someone that you might want to, that is, call it a little bit unreachable. And I'm going to give some examples that I've done, but starting with the punchline. So I think the punchline is not asking them questions, not looking to take or withdraw from their equity, but trying to figure out a unique way to legitimately deposit into their bank account. So their figurative bank account, or maybe their literal bank account. I don't know. But basically, I think you have to figure out how to get their attention and get their trust before you can try and take something, from them. And the only way to actually do that is to add value to their life. And so the way
Yeah.
I've done this in the past is like, I'll give two or three really quick examples. But um, again, reminder, this is while I'm working full-time at Zillow, traveling some for that business, I don't know, somewhere in the deep fog of having my 4 young children that I have now. And so now on top of this, I'm trying to figure out how to make that happen. So one example was there's this influencer on LinkedIn. She had a business and 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and not like fake followers. She had like real engagement. And so
Yeah.
very hard to reach, and everyone was always kind of reaching out for that kind of stuff. And so I started making, she was crushing on content, but this is back in the day where sliders, do you remember, like on Instagram, there's the slider posts, like
Yeah.
they have those on LinkedIn, but she had all this content but zero sliders on those. And I noticed LinkedIn was sliders were doing really well. So I took a lot of her content, went into Canva with my own 2 thumbs, Googling how do you do this shit. It's really cringy when I look back on the design now, I bet. But like I made sliders based on her other top performing posts. So I repurposed her content in a way that I thought would give her value. And then I
Yeah.
just sent it to her and was like, hey, I saw this as a way, an opportunity in your content. Like, hope that could help. She loved it, got her attention, wanted to hop on Zoom. I ended up doing what I would kind of call like some intern work for her. And
Yeah.
so some people probably didn't like the work up front that would take, because who knows if she even would have responded. Some people probably didn't even like doing the ongoing intern project work, but this was my way to have now ongoing one-on-one access
For
to
sure.
ask her questions, and now legitimately like log into her like social media and like work on the
Yeah.
things to see click rates and conversion and strategies. So I ran that same approach to, there's an e-commerce company that Gary Vee invested or owns. It's called Iconic. I have some of their posters in my gym. It's Iconic with a K, but they do like motivational canvas art.
Yeah.
So e-commerce, totally different world, but same exact thing. I saw that they were crushing. We really wanted to learn what they were up to and how they were doing it. Just started doing a bunch of written content and just sent them like 10 written article blog posts,
Okay.
because and same exact thing. They didn't respond for a while. That led to meeting them. That led then to a paid gig with them for a while. But I'm already paying my bills with a full-time job. Like, I'm busy enough. Like, the money was not the focus.
It was the proximity. Yeah.
It was this. I was getting my master's degree in my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
instead of me going into debt to get a master's degree, I'd rather be profitably getting a master's degree. So
For
I
sure.
got to see e-commerce strategies on 100,000 email address letters and conversion to sales for that, which I now translate and use today in my own business. And so there's multiple examples that I just went on and did maybe 10 of those that
Yeah.
led to more and more learnings, more and more confidence in my own strategy, and just good relationships, along the way.
Well, and I mean, I think I equate that as you were kind of going over each of those examples, I was laughing to myself because how often are you getting DMs from people that are like, "Hey man, sweet content. Can I
Yeah,
edit some videos for you?
I know.
Can I do a video and send it to you? Can I
Yeah.
can I can I?" And it's
I
literally like I've been deleting them because it's like in my unread, spam folder, kind of on
yeah,
Instagram. It's like, so I
yeah.
was deleting those today and I was just laughing. And I'm like, I wonder if they were to take the time to, like, actually make a video and add
It's
captions to a
nuts.
video that I already had, right? Would I be more likely to respond? I'm like, "Yeah, I probably would," but it's like, how
Uh,
many hundreds of thousands of people are they sending these out to, you know?
It's bananas. Like the amount of they're spending the time, like you said,
Yeah,
they're just not spending on the right thing. Like, if
yeah,
you just reached out to one millionth of the people, but did the hard work. I mean, I love that you brought that up as an example. I obviously have now a video business, but that
yeah,
was one thing early on that we did. Like, I would actually make it, send it to them, and just same exact thing. Like, don't even like ask, just sort of make the deposit and then see if that can create an organic conversation. But like, it's, most people don't necessarily want to do the upfront work without being guaranteed the money. And that goes back, just tying this back to like some of the initial agents that I saw joining some of these mega teams. They would actually, like, because I would be on webinars with their whole team or doing events or whatever, or on social, they would hit me up when they go to leave brokerages or leave teams. And some of them I agree with and some of I don't, but it was often always like they wanted more cash today or needed more short term like economics, which again, I have 4 kids, you have to pay the bills.
yeah,
Like, but the more you can almost like hold and deposit into the learnings and soak up, like get to 50 transactions and then start, turning the needle on monetizing or something, or then start, making those moves. But hopefully that analogy works for any business owner that's kind of listening.
Well, I think it's tough too, like the entire commission thing with team members and, especially when you're first starting out, like if you're a brand new agent listening to this and you're thinking about joining a team or not joining a team, people often get hung up on the splits, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's tough. It's like, whether you're making 30%, 40%, 50%, 85%, 90%, like if you're not selling any homes, whatever percentage of zero is still zero, right? And
Yeah.
so whether you're
Yeah.
on a 30% split or a 90% split, like, a team, as you said, can probably get you to 40 or 50 transactions a lot faster than you will on
Yeah.
your own.
I've seen it a trillion times with the agents and the teams that I've worked with, but maybe just to get vulnerable for a quick second, because I think there's power in vulnerability. Like the way that I did this was, even though I was a W-2 employee for over a decade.
Yep.
When for over a decade, I decided that that's not what I wanted to do for my long term. So
Yeah.
like right before we actually started recording, I think we were talking about how I owned a CrossFit gym. Like there are several businesses on the side. And so like I just wasn't ready. Like I still needed to build the skills, the financial foundation, like all of those things to be ready to get to that next chapter. And even if that takes 5 to 10 years, I think that's actually short, in the bigger picture.
Yeah. Well, so I want to talk a little bit. I know you don't want to plug your business
No.
because you're definitely someone that wants to,
Let's talk more
give.
about video tactics and
Well, and
strategies,
so
because
that's
I'd rather
so
even learn from you on that. And yeah,
well, so I kind of want to dig into it because, like, I mean, you burn the boats, right? You went out
yeah,
on your own and are, so it's Video Launch is your company, right?
yes,
And
yes.
so what are you do like? What's the premise of the company?
Yeah, so I've never actually. Here's one I've never said before. So here's a good breaking kind of insight for the podcast. But I said how inspired I have been by Hormozy. So I don't know how deep anyone's gone down to it. But are you familiar with his gym launch business?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there's kind of that two parts of the business where he has the turnarounds, the physical going to the gyms where he helps the gyms, and then he started licensing and started with education. And so that's kind of the plan here with Video Launch. Right now, we do a lot of production where we've traveled anywhere from Seattle to San Francisco to Southern California, and we help either personal brands, real estate team leaders, agents, people in real estate start showing up on video and building their personal brand, so they can build their business. And to me, that's been a great way for me to be more hands-on and continue to be learning and
Yeah.
sort of continue to get these insights on video. But the goal is not to do 1,000 video shoots across the country one day. The
Yeah.
goal is to keep that part still kind of lean and mean. And I want to always have a production part of the business. But we've already started and already launched an education group where we have people from Hawaii to the East Coast that are taking our process and our my own kind of playbook, if you will, on building their personal brand to build their business.
For sure. No, I mean, I think that it's huge. Obviously, you know how I feel about video, and I throw a video
Yeah.
event each year and do masterminds all the time and stuff like that. But um so let's get a
Can
little tactical
can
on
I?
video.
Yeah,
What?
let me. And I think I want to add, just for anyone that doesn't know, like my kind of origin of how I became obsessed with
Yeah.
video too on this, because I think that journey is sort of, it's so what I feel is true to like my life, which is why I feel
Yeah.
obsessed with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the part of this business. And it's taken me time to shape what's the kind of business I really want to do and can double down on and burn the boats on. And so when I was at Zillow and started making videos, I wasn't selling anything at Zillow. I wasn't selling anything outside of Zillow. I didn't have a product or a service. And so the idea was, I was building my personal brand, but still not knowing exactly what that was going to turn into. And
Yeah.
there's this moment that I feel like everyone hits. Everyone that's consistently doing video today, I feel like has a similar moment or story where you get that initial inbound call or message, and it's like, it's juicy. It's like a $3 million home seller, or it's something that's very financially meaningful, or whatever it is. And then there's kind of no turning back. And so I had this tech CEO. How long have you been? How long have you been in real estate again? Do you
So
remember?
I got
You
licensed
remember
in
Zerple?
no, I don't think
Okay,
so.
they're kind of like one of the OG CRMs, like back in like 2000, like 10. But anyway,
Okay, yeah,
they're founders. They have this tech company, and it's 8-figure company and CEO, and reached out to me, and that's now led to a multi 6-figure opportunity. And to me, it's kind of like and the direct words were, I saw your videos and wanted to buy coffee and connect. And there wasn't, for the last year and a half, there wasn't a like or a comment or a message
yeah,
or a
yeah, yeah,
signal
yeah.
that this was happening. And so that aha moment for me of like, wow, these videos unlocked an opportunity that never would have happened. And this was a truly life-changing opportunity for me. And then the more I doubled down on that, the more opportunities started opening up. And
Yeah.
so that's something I've become obsessed with, helping other people do in their own lives.
Well, and I think that like when you're talking about real estate agents making content, like no buyer or seller, no consumer is like watching my videos and being like, "Thank you so much for this video, Katie. I will call you when I'm ready to sell." Right?
Yeah,
They're just like,
yeah,
"Huh, I liked that. That's good information.
yeah,
I'm going to now go do that to my house or consider that as
yeah,
I'm thinking about where I want to move." And that's that, right? Like that's
yeah.
all that they're doing. And then they reach out after a year of seeing your content or
Right,
6
right,
months of seeing your content.
right. And it's tough though, because like, you can't. It's just one of those things. Like I come from a world of Zillow where lead generation, predictability,
Yeah.
ROI, conversion, like all of that. It's direct response.
Yeah.
We're essentially talking about the other side of the coin of like brand and the unknown creative. But what I believe, unlike when you buy leads, I believe your brand actually, just like real estate, has compounding value and equity. So 2 years from now, 20 years from now, it can be 100 times more valuable than when you first started.
For sure, for sure. So, getting kind of granular on video, what would be your advice for someone that's creating content but doesn't feel like they're getting enough traction with it, right? So like maybe they're doing videos but like they're not getting any views, any likes. I know that's a super like general question,
No,
but just from
yeah,
like
but
a
let's just say the signals, yeah, are that they're not getting good engagement. Let's just, that's fair. Like,
yeah,
I mean, to even be real specific, if no one's reaching out to you to talk to you about your business or your life, like you probably aren't getting good engagement. So
yeah,
that's a signal worth looking at. There's a handful of things that I would suggest, and first thing I'll say is none of it has to do with the captions or the software and editing app that you use, which is like one of the top questions. And so, first one I think is like when you're creating pattern interruption, you can do it both with the aesthetically, visually, or you can do it like with the messaging. And so let's use a few examples to create pattern interruption. And so one of my favorite is just actually, again, physically moving, like,
yeah,
because that you don't have to get crazy creative or change your messaging. You just have to like walk your feet somewhere else. And so most people get stuck in the office, like the same place. Like especially if you scroll down their feed in the same video, like 100 videos are the same exact thing, which I did forever. Like it's going to just naturally become pattern recognized. So I
yeah.
think to break it, go outside, go somewhere weird, have a thing, stuff happening in your background, but continue to do your thing, but just create a little bit more movement. You
Eh,
can even do that
So
like
real quick,
outside of
so
the. Yeah, yeah,
we'll just say so real quick with that, like I saw a specific date and time when that happened on your feed, right?
yeah.
Like you were doing
Yeah.
videos like, in one way and then
Yes.
like, I don't know what date it actually was, but like, January 1st, then I start seeing these videos where it's like you're walking down the street and then it whoosh,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
you're, on the other side of the street and like just different things like
Yeah.
that. That I was like, "Oh, I like this."
Yeah.
He's
That's
mixing it up.
Yeah, I agree. And because I think the pattern interruption doesn't even have to just be in the hook. You can take that same thing of movement of like, okay, if you're always in one place, why don't you try, walking, or, frame one is here, let's make frame two there. And you can even do this weird story in the background where you're going from point A to point B and people kind of want to see you, like you said, crossing the street, so to speak. So I think you can physically create pattern interruption. But then another way is really the messaging or the topics and the content. I think a lot of people get stuck in sort of a lane of business, 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 or interest rates, buy and sell. And that
Yeah.
stuff, can just, especially if other people are talking about that, you're just gonna people are going to put you into that category, even if it's your first video talking about interest rates. So I think
Yeah.
your video, as far from a messaging standpoint, ideally is completely unique to you. It's something most people aren't saying. And there are ways to flip that, stuff like even just flipping on its head. So like, why it's not a good time to buy, or here's why you shouldn't buy real estate. I mean, those aren't necessarily great hooks, but like, again, if you break the expectation versus conforming to what people expect you to say, that's just naturally going to get a little bit more engagement, good or bad. And that can even lead to, yeah, maybe you should push the boundary of controversy, not controversy, but like push the boundaries of, create a response. Don't, if it's just too vanilla, you're just not going to get engagement no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and you don't need to necessarily be the controversial person, but discussing things or bringing news that's controversial or things like that definitely create engagement. And
Yeah.
I hate to say clickbaity, but like the things that like those negative headlines, right? Why you
Yeah.
shouldn't buy, why you shouldn't this, also
Well,
create
maybe a less
curiosity.
like, yeah, agree. And maybe like a genuine way of saying, I think what we both agree on and saying is like, if you don't have a bold view of something, then it's probably not worth someone's time watching the video. And so I think if you're just taking this like middle of the road, like normal view that most people can agree with, and no one's really just, has a view, like, of course, people are just going to flick right past you. So I think you
Yeah.
have to have a bold view. Otherwise, people aren't going to spend the time.
Yeah.
One more
Um,
pattern,
yeah, what do you got?
like, okay, getting started for like more pattern interruption is because I love this, just collaborations. Like, I know you mentioned like a podcast style show. I, to this day, never had an actual podcast or called it a show. I was just like, hey, you want to sit down and talk and click record, and we can talk about coffee, or we can talk about, mom life, or we talk about real estate. But like, I think just bringing other people into the fold will naturally get their audience or their friends, a little bit more aware of who you are.
Yeah,
Plus, it'll just, back to what I was saying earlier, it'll at least get you the one-to-one engagement. You can at least get one person that's going
for
to
sure.
like and probably comment.
Yeah, one, maybe two,
Yeah.
you and them. No, but I think that's huge. So if you're a real estate agent, it could be, people in your local community, it could be agents from across the country, right? Or things like that, to where you're creating these relationships, that are will serve you well into the future, for sure.
Yeah, and mix up I think the topics. Like, I'll just say that one real quick. Like, I think a lot of people are probably more 80-20, where it's 80% business, but I have this sort of theory that it's the opposite. Like, people want to see 80% who you are as a human, and wrap it around like, oh yeah, she went to a real estate house, or oh yeah, she like has a real estate team. Like, that's almost enough. Like that, like you said, like when it's time, it's enough. But the real impact is, will they connect with you as a human relationship? And most people aren't making videos about that stuff, so they look like a walking, real estate brand.
It's really funny you say that. One, because I'm literally wearing, my company logo on my shirt today. But
Yeah.
no, I'm
But even that is what I love about, by the way, and I think we should talk about this company for a second, but like, there's no logo or name of the company on it. It's actually just values that a lot of people like myself stand by. It's one of my favorite sweatshirts, not only because the fit and the feel, but like, yeah,
super
because
soft.
it isn't promoting any, you don't even see what business it is. You just see, the work hard, be kind. And I get compliments all the time on like how people love that sweater. So I think again, but that's because it's the human thing. I
Yeah.
align with that as a human. Work hard, be kind. It's not like, oh, it's that logo, that
Yeah.
person's
No,
name.
I'm just twisting your words against you over here. No,
Yeah.
but what I was gonna say is, we recently hired a VA to help with social, and so she takes content that I post, say, on Instagram, and then repurposes it and puts it on to Google My Business and LinkedIn and to all of these other sites, which we were DMing about because we're talking about LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
it's go check my LinkedIn. I'm now posting on other stuff.
Okay,
So
I will. I
get off my
will.
back, my accountability partner over here. But
Okay.
where I was going with this is the personal thing, right? So one of the things that I told her when she kind of got started and had been working for a while was like, okay, now what I need you to do is like, I want you to track posts, right? What's getting the most engagement, right? What is month over month, following and engagement look like, right? Because like, what's the point
Hmm.
if we're not getting more following, if
Yeah.
we're not getting engagement?
Yeah.
Like, yes, we want to make sure that we're educating the public. Yes, we want to make sure we're connecting with people, but like, we need to see some, incremental
Totally.
improvement. And she was like, "Yeah, one thing I've noticed is people, anytime you're wearing cool sneakers, they comment about the sneakers more than they do on the actual content itself." I'm like, "Yes, I'm aware." She's like, "And then whenever you post the sneaker videos, people are just obsessed." She's like, "And the one that you had with your kid in it," she was like, "It just," she's like, "It went crazy." And it just,
And I'm telling you, to tie that story home real quick, my wife this morning goes, what do you think of, like, I'm really into like these Nike, sneakers for like for girls. Like I kind of like that vibe and that style. I'm like, hold up, let me pull up this page real quick and show you, Katie, because exactly. It's like, I mean, I think it's those unique things that make you stand out the most. I love
yeah, it's fine. I could put out like the best real estate video ever, and someone would be like, "I don't like your shoes." I'd be like, "Well, wonderful. Did you like the real estate information that I'm providing?" No? Okay, great. You
Yeah,
just hate me.
sounds right. Sounds right.
Um,
Sounds right.
all right, so let me hit you with 2 more questions. So one would be,
Yeah.
if I was a brand new real estate agent today, just got my license, I need to hang it at a brokerage, or maybe I just hung it at a brokerage. What advice would you give to me in getting my career started?
So find the person like in your actual neighborhood, like the market where you want to sell homes. And so, as specific as possible, find the top 5 people that are selling the most homes. And you can like literally log into the MLS and see this. So the data
Yeah.
is just right there in a few clicks. And and then we talked about this earlier in the podcast. Figure out a way to make deposits into their figurative bank account. So, yo, do you need someone to hold your open house this week? And I saw you have 17 listings. Or, hey, do you want someone to drop off some mailers this week? Yeah, I could probably save you some money, and I can even knock on some of those doors for you. Like, I think find the people that are in the neighborhood selling the homes, and then just start doing that intern stuff that I mentioned,
Yeah.
earlier for them.
I love that. I've actually no one's ever said that before in like
Awesome.
hundreds of episodes. So I love it. I love it.
And let me add real quick. Join one of those teams too. We said that earlier. Like, join one of those top producing teams, so you can, again, you can infiltrate, get as close as you can to the sun, and just copy, emulate. And then third thing, I'm just gonna say too, make sure one of those is real brokerage, because I there are 2 stocks. I've said this on several podcasts. There are 2 stocks that I own, and I make content about these companies because investing and tech, it's part of my DNA. And one of them is Tesla, and one of them is real brokerage. And so I'm a big fan of them for a lot of reasons, which is another podcast another time.
And just so y'all know, did not pay Connor for that plug. That's the first time Real has ever been plugged on the podcast. So,
Follow me. I'll show that these are the stocks that I make content about.
no, I know. I'm just
Videos about them.
giving you a hard time. Got to give you a hard time. All right. So, final question: if it were your last meal on Earth, what would you be eating?
Oh my gosh. So it's just gotta be In-N-Out burger. Like, I'm torn with tacos. Like, Mexican food is, I'm out here in Southern California. Like, I I feel like I would be, you know, breaking the rules by not choosing tacos, but In-N-Out burger, salty French fries, like, I'm about that life.
All right. I love it. So, with that being said, on the, go follow him for, the
Proof.
all the stock tips and things like that. Where can people find you online? What's the best place for them to follow you?
So I like to say that as a part of my strategy, I hang out at least a little bit everywhere. So I post and have profiles pretty much everywhere that you are, but I hang out the most easily on Instagram. So feel free to shoot me a message. I love shooting the shit about videos and content and all the things.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's always fun hanging out and
Yeah,
chopping it up. So
likewise,
appreciate that.
likewise.
And hopefully we'll see each other at some point this year at a conference or event. If not, we'll
Absolutely.
just, stay in the Instagram DMs.
Yep, it's a plan. So cool. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Kitty.